Good day, students. Today we're looking over binomials and trinomials. And I'd like to note what I forgot to mention in the last video. Binomial is a bracket that consists of two terms. Bi stands for two, right? Bi stands for two. And then we also have a trinomial, which means the bracket consists of three terms. So the tri stands for three, right? And what we did, we used the four method, which means the first, the outers, the inners, and the last. It doesn't necessarily work in this case. It works, but to a certain extent, and we have to cater for that, right? So let's get down to it. We have x plus 5 and x squared plus x minus 3. Mustn't forget to write down our FOIL. That stands for first, outers, inners, loss. Right. So what we have as the first terms, we have this x and also we have the x squared. We have our outers, which is this x and that negative 3. We have our inners, which is this 5 and this x squared. We also have our else, which stands for loss. It's this 5 and that negative 3. But if you look closely, every term here has a letter corresponding with it, right? F, O, O, I, L, L, there's two letters above it. But this X here, this X over here, it doesn't have any letters assigned to it. So we have to cater for it, right? We have to cater for it. So let's first do our first. We have X times X squared plus X times negative 3 plus we going to our i's now, inners 5 times x squared plus going a loss, we have 5 times negative 3 plus again y. We still have to cater for this x. If you look here, this x times with this x squared, this x times with that negative 3, but it hasn't times with this x. We haven't multiplied it with this x yet, so we have to do that. That's what I'm saying. We have to cater for this x in the middle. So it's going to be this x times that x. Same thing with the 5. The 5 hasn't multiplied with this x. The 5 has multiplied with the x squared. The 5 has multiplied with the minus 3, but it hasn't multiplied with this x in the middle. So we are going to have 5 times x, right? And then we have to simplify. X times x. This is an exponent rule, right? Here we have 1. We know that. Here we have 1. So when we multiplying variables, it's not that we multiply them, their exponents add, right? When you multiply variables, it means that their exponents will add. If that's the same variable, of course. In this case, we have x and an x, so yeah, same thing. So we're going to add the exponents. So it's going to be x times x squared. Yeah, that is 1 plus 2. That will give us x cubed plus x times negative 3. What does that give us? Minus 3x. Again, I have a bracket because I know that I have a negative. It That will change in due course. Plus 5 times x squared. No need for a bracket here. Here we have 5 times negative 3, that's negative 15. Plus x times x, that's 1. So that's 1 plus 1. So we know our x will have a 2 over there. And then we have to say plus again, 5 times x, that is 5x, right? That is 5x. And then we simplify further. We have x cubed. We have x cubed. And now, what does a positive and a negative make? A positive and a negative create a negative. So we're going to have a negative here. Negative what? Negative 3x. x plus 5x squared. Positively negative, make a negative. Then we continue. We have x squared plus 5x, right? And then we check for what? For like terms. We check for like terms. Is there something? Okay, here we have x cubed. Now, let's mark it like this with a zigzag, kind of a zigzag. X cubed. Is there another x that has an exponent 3? No, I don't see it. So we just bring this down. Now we have minus 3x. So we're looking at the variable. Is there an exponent that just has an x? Yes, there is here, over here. So we are going to add these two. Minus 3 plus 5x, that will give us positive 2x. And then we look at x squared. Let's just draw a triangle. X squared, is there an x squared here? No, no, yes. Here we have it, x squared. So we can add these two together. Why? Because it's like terms. And then we're going to have positive 6x squared. And then we have minus 15. And then we just simplify our thing. X cubed plus 6x squared plus 2x minus 15. This you can leave it here. There is no problem. But like just for neatness purposes, we like it to leave it in descending order in terms of the x exponents. 3, 2, 1, and then we have nothing over here. So that is how we do the trinomial. But let's look at another example again. Let's look at another example. We have 2x plus 2, x squared minus 3x minus 2. Same thing, we mark our first, we mark our outers, we mark our inners, we mark our lasts. Again, special case, there is no letter assigned to this negative 3x, so we have to cater for it, right? So let's get ahead with it. F and F, so 2x times x squared. So this x has a 1, that x is a 2. So we'll have an x here, but these exponents will add when we multiply the variables. So 1 plus 2, that gives us 3, right? But wait, before we get into that, let's just write it down. Let's just write it down. And then we have O, which is 2x times negative 2, plus, with our i's, we have 2 times x squared, plus our l's, which is our loss. We have 2 times negative 2, plus special case, we have 2x times with the x squared, 2x times with the negative 2, but it hasn't times with this negative 3x. So we have to cater for that. 2x times negative 3x plus 2 times negative 3x. 2 times negative the software. So that is 2 times negative 3x. Sorry for my writing. And then we get into it. We simplify. We have 2 here, that's a constant. Then we have these variables, these x's. Same variable, so we just add the exponents when we multiply these two variables together. That is going to give us 2x cubed plus a 2 times a negative 2. What is that going to give us? A negative 4. Then we just carry this variable plus we have a 2 times x squared. We have 2x squared plus 2 times negative 2. That will give us negative 4. You see, the ones with the negatives, the ones with the negatives are in brackets because we know that is going to change in due time. And then we have plus 2 times negative 3. What is that? Negative 6. Then we look at the variables. X times x. We know that it's x to the power of 1, x to the power of 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So then this is x to the power of 2 plus 2 times negative 3. That is negative 6. And then we just carry the x. And then we carry this down. Positive, negative. That gives us a negative plus 2x squared. Positive, negative gives us a negative. Positive, negative, negative. Same thing over here. Now, we have to simplify. Those may look messy. So, what must we do? We must check our variables. We must mark it, right? X cubed. I'm gonna mark it with a triangle. Is there any other x cubed over here? No, which means I can just bring this down. Now we look at what the x, right? Is we mark our x with just a line over there. We look for another x to power of 1, of course, or x, whereas you see nothing. Is there another one? Yes, there is here. So we add these. Why? Because they are like terms. Like terms meaning the variables are the same. So minus 4 minus 6x, that just gives us minus 10x. Now we look at x squared. Going to mark it with our zigzag. X squared. We also have an x squared over here, which means we have to add these because like terms, same variables. Positive 2 minus 6x squared. That is just going to give us negative 4x squared. Then we carry this negative 4 down. We can leave it like this, but for neatness purposes, you're going to write it in descending order of the exponents of x, and that is our final answer. Let's look at another example of last example. And then we know we are done with this. And know that you can perfect it. Because this one is a special case as well. Minus 6x minus 2 squared. Now, if you look at this, these things are not the same. These things, they are not the same, right? They are not the same. We have 4, but we must also remember God must, whereas like brackets first of division, multiplication, addition, subtraction, right? So like whatever happens in the bracket for like that takes first priority, right? That takes first priority. So we have x minus 2. There's no x here, so we can't do anything with what's inside the bracket. But what's special, we have something outside the bracket. Not what's on the left, no. What's up there. We have a 2. So what must we do with that? This is minus 6. We just carry this negative 6 down. Yeah? And then minus 2x, all that squared. It means we have two brackets that are like this. Minus x minus 2 squared, it means we have two brackets just like this, right? So we're going to have something like this, x minus 2 times x minus 2. Now, our FOIL will take 100%, right? It will take us where we want to go. We mark our firsts, we mark our outers, we mark our inners, and then our loss, right? And then we just carry the negative 6. It's still outside. We have to solve the brackets first. right? So it's x times x, f's, the f's, right? So x times x plus x plus, yeah, x times negative 2 plus negative 2 times x plus negative 2 times negative 2, close our bracket. Still carry the negative 6, it's still outside. X times x, what did I say? There's a 1 there, there's 1 there, there's also a 1 there. When you multiply our variables, we just add the exponents, so that is x squared plus x times negative 2, that's just negative 2x, again plus negative 2x, and then a negative times a negative, that's a positive, that will make positive 4. There's a reason why I wrote this in brackets now, because I just want you to see that. And we still carry this minus 6 from the outside. Now this is x squared minus 2x minus 2x plus 4. Why? Positive and negative make a negative, right? So we still not done with this. We have x squared, we have to simplify. So we look at like terms, like terms. Here's an x squared, there's no other x squared, hence I carried it down. We look at an x, here's another x, there's no other x, therefore we have to add these because they're like terms. So we have minus 4x plus 4. Now we are done with what's inside the bracket. We can't do anything further with what's inside the bracket, but we can do something further with what's outside the bracket. Now we have to multiply this 6 into the bracket. It has to multiply with this x squared. It has to multiply with this negative 4x. It also has to multiply with that 4 over there. So negative 6 times x squared is just negative 6x squared. Now a negative times a negative, right? Let me highlight that. A negative times a negative. What does that give us? It gives us a positive. Now it's 6 times 4. That gives us 24x. And we have a negative. We have a negative times a positive, which will give us a negative. Again, 6 times 4 is 24. And that is how we do trinomials and binomials, and a special case whereas like we're just given one bracket and it's squared. We first have to expand it. This is what we call expansion, or whether like expanding the bracket, because we know that it's squared, so we have to expand it and then FOIL it and then simplify it further. And then we look at what's on the outside afterwards. And we know what's on the outside has to multiply with each term inside the bracket. And that is all for today.